Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today. Our first panel this morning will be about sustainability, international sustainability initiatives, and the role of the Association of Banks in Jordan with respect to sustainability. Our esteemed panelists will be delivering short presentations. We will hear from them, and then we will try to open the floor for questions and to see how we can interact with what they have presented. As we all know, sustainability has evolved substantially and significantly during the last decades. It moved from the narrow philanthropic kind of approach into the wider strategic sustainability that focuses on the economical, social, and environmental aspects. There is a growing pressure from the different stakeholders of the sustainability ecosystem, be it the investors, be it the regulators, be it the clients, civil societies or NGOs, in order to see companies integrating or businesses integrating the sustainability goals and sustainability best practices into their daily operations and business modules. This is primarily in order to work collectively towards enhancing the economic, social, and environmental development across the different societies and countries. Our first speaker this morning will shed some light on the international initiatives when it comes to sustainability, specifically in the financial sector and with emphasis on the environmental side. Allow me to introduce, although you met her at the morning session, Lizel Van Ast. She is the Membership and Regional Coordination Manager at the United Nations Environment Programme Finance Initiative. Lizel is responsible for membership engagement, outreach, regional coordination, and training. She was previously Program Manager of the Natural Capital Declaration, which is a joint initiative of UNEP FI and Global Canopy Program, where she developed a work program to help strengthen management of environmental risks and opportunities by financial institutions. She coordinated projects to develop innovative tools and methodologies to integrate natural resource and environmental issues into financial products and services. Without any further delays, I welcome you to the stage, Lizel, please.
Thank you very much. So I will look now more at some of the work that's actually been done on the implementation for sustainable development in the financial sector. I'll just give an overview, first of all, of how we're working as a partnership between UN Environment and the financial sector, and look at how we're working in different regions and also at a country level to support the transition. And then I'll look at our banking work program. Because we work across banking and insurance and investment, I won't go into everything today, but I'll focus on banking. So as a partnership, we were launched in 1992, as I mentioned, and it's really one of the things we've been doing as part of this is to help raise the profile of the financial sector within, for example, the UN climate negotiations, to really position that the private sector needs to be part of this the agenda. So we have 127 banking members around the world, and we have 61 insurance members, so we're working very strongly in the insurance industry to help support the transition for integrating environmental, social, and governance issues. So, for example, there will be guidelines that we'll be developing in the next year or so to integrate into underwriting, which of course then banks could look at when they're looking at lending. Our overall strategy is to look at how to build the business case for sustainable development in the financial sector. So looking at what are the opportunities which we can harness in the financial sector as for supporting a green economy and sustainable development. Also building capacity, as you mentioned, training and helping to provide some of the tools and expertise and working with the financial sector. So that's very important. We're not like a consultancy doing all of the work ourselves. We work very closely with our members to help figure out some of these challenges and help to develop the solutions together so that they're practical and implementable. So these are some of our members globally. I think some of over 200 members, as I mentioned, over 120 odd banks. What we've been doing over 25 years, some of the key things, one was the launch of the Principles for Responsible Investment in 2006, which now has grown to be the largest, investor initiative. So that was started by UNEP Finance Initiative, and now is its own initiative working on changing the investment integration of environmental, social, and governance issues for asset owners and asset managers. So we're still the largest initiative in banking, working on doing research and developing the tools and the methodologies to help move forward. The whole goal is really to help to integrate environmental, social governance issues into financial decision making. So it's really about the lending and of course investment insurance. It's around how can we develop the standards, the tools, the methodologies in order to finance a transition to a green economy. So how can you create the financial instruments that are really currently not necessarily as mainstream as they could be to support this transition. We're also promoting transparency and disclosure in the financial sector because it's, of course, an important way to help to learn from one another and to share good practice and really to be able to see how other banks have moved ahead in helping to support green lending, for example, green mortgages, renewable energy financing, and to create innovative products and also to advance environmental risk management. So globally, our members, this is a breakdown of our members by region. As you can see, we still have a way to go in Africa and the Middle East to help strengthen the hub on sustainable finance in the region. Our largest base is in Europe and followed by Asia Pacific. We've been really seeing the emergence of different initiatives around the world. And these are just some examples of environmental social risk management being really one of the key issues that has helped to drive forward the agenda and to improve risk management. It's really a core issue which is, of course, fundamental for credit. And one of the things we've seen, for example, in Brazil, where they suffered from a big drought, is advancing how they are then asking clients questions about water management, water efficiency, in order to better understand the link between that and potentially non-performing loans. So we've seen central banks and others working on integrating these issues for sometimes specifically on risk, sometimes specifically on green finance, such as green credit policy in China, and also, of course, inclusive finance for social inequality. In the investment side, increasingly regulators are looking to mandate environmental, social, and governance issues being integrated into decision-making as part of the fiduciary duty, as part of responsible investment to ensure sustainable and resilient returns for future beneficiaries over 20, 30, 40 years. Some of the initiatives within stock exchanges have, of course, helped to also increase the ability of financial institutions to integrate these issues as companies disclose more on how they are performing on these issues. At a national level, certainly, this is just a small group of examples. There are many more examples, and quite recently in the UAE, the Dubai Declaration on Sustainable Finance, which was launched at UNEP-FI's Global Roundtable last year. We launched the Insurance Principles for Sustainable Insurance in 2012, which is now building the insurance industry's capabilities on these issues. And actually, as part of the climate talks this week as well, there's a launch of a commitment from Insure Resilience, which is to announce that they will provide insurance for 400 million more people who are vulnerable to climate change. So this is also part of the Sustainable Development Goals agenda of increasing access to finance to make sure that vulnerable and poor communities are also part of the sustainable development and are able to be to address poverty and inequality. So this is just one example in Morocco, which has really grasped this agenda and is helping to drive it forward. We've been working in Morocco and also with the inquiry on, they've been developing a roadmap for sustainable finance. And so that's to help really position Morocco as also a green financial center. There was a meeting last month there, which I think there's 13, at the moment, around 13 different financial centers trying to position themselves as a race to become the green financial centers. So what does that mean? So for example, Luxembourg has already positioned itself so that most of, I think more than 50% of the green bonds currently being listed are on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange. So it's about attracting the financial products and services and attracting the investors to be located within these financial centers. So I think one of the main areas that we're also looking at within the MENA region, and these are some of the institutions that we've been working with, and we really want to try and build up the community here so that we can help the Middle East and also the whole MENA region to be part of this global imperative to work towards sustainable development. Some of the ways we're working on this is, of course, engaging stakeholders, working as well with events, but also as research, helping to support with developing sustainable finance principles and guidelines, and then helping to develop the work program to address this. So, for example, in this region, energy efficiency and water scarcity have been identified as two priorities, which we have guidelines and work around energy efficiency, for example, and we also worked on developing tools to assess portfolios for exposure to water stress. We also have a training program on environmental social risk analysis. There's one in Egypt this week, which is, again, to really at a practical level help within financial institutions to enhance their knowledge and understanding of how to actually assess companies in lending on environmental social risk issues. I think one of the areas we work as well is on collaborating on technical research and development projects. So this is really driven by the financial institutions around the world saying these are the issues that are important to us, this is what we want to work on, and this is where we need help to move ahead on this agenda. So climate change and natural capital have been two areas where there have been a focus on doing research and building capacity in these areas, working very closely with the banks. And as you can see, the decisions, this is our governance, the decisions are very much taken in partnership with the banks to make sure that where it's a strategic priority for the banks, it can be then filtered into the global agenda on how sustainable finance is developing. So practically, the banking work program has the guidance on banking and sustainability. So it's a very practical how can banks set up within the institutions to be aligned with supporting more sustainable finance. We also have been developing more advanced tools and practices. So looking at, for example, there's now more and more satellite information which can now be harnessed and used to link to companies to look at where are they using water, is it in water-stressed areas, and how are they managing that efficiently, and where is it potentially material and potentially a higher credit risk. So it's really to be more analytically evidence-based approaches to integrating environmental social governance issues. This is around the guide for banking and sustainability. So it's for senior management and for sustainability teams and for others within the bank to better understand what it means to them and how is it relevant to their day-to-day lives and what can they do about it. So it looks at practical case studies of banks around the world and how they are advancing on sustainable finance. On the training and capacity building, we've been training over 2,000 practitioners in environmental social risk analysis. And we're actually currently updating our training program on climate change. So, of course, that's a key area around financing renewable energies, energy efficiency, and also risk management. We're also now developing green bonds training, which will be launched next year, which we're doing actually with the Mauritius Stock Exchange, which is to help, of course, try and grow the green bond market in southern sub-Saharan Africa. And we'll be looking at, once we have that, where there might be demand for that sort of training elsewhere. And what, for example, we've seen in Latin America, there's been an emergence of green bonds recently. And we had our regional roundtable in Latin America in September, where Bancolombia spoke about some of the challenges and opportunities around this. And so, for example, some of the banks were trying to develop green financial products, but there wasn't the pipeline of businesses and projects to finance. Whereas some banks like Bancolombia, which had already for years been working on building up environmental social risk management systems, building their capacities, and then working with clients in technical support and building their clients' capacity, they now have a pipeline of enough momentum so that they can be involved in green bond market development. So by having had the basics and built up the capacity, it then enables them to be part of the green financial product development. On the risk side, we've been working with banks such as Citi and UBS and others on various projects. The stress testing bank portfolios, that links to the broader agenda of looking at how environmental issues are really important to financial resilience and how portfolios can be exposed to environmental issues in terms of financial risk. So this project was working on with one of the lead providers in the insurance industry on analytics to integrate that into, for example, in Citi stress test testing, so they could look at what's the potential impact on non-performing loans of drought risk. So that's all available on our website, all open source. Now that we finished that project, it's available. We're also currently working on tools and indicators around climate risk disclosure. So this is really around developing strategies. So I mentioned earlier the FSB Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure Recommendations, which came out in July. So we've set up a pilot project, which is working with 16 banks around the world, again, including Citi and some others from Latin America, Europe, and elsewhere, to look at what do these recommendations mean, how can they be implemented, because it's really a new cutting-edge area of sustainable finance on the risk management side. So it's really looking at what does climate change mean for risks and opportunities, and how are the banks positioned to address the risks and to harness those opportunities. And so, for example, if in North America or in Europe, if there's a transition to low-carbon economy, how much are the banks exposed to the sectors that are going to be part of that transition and part of the future low-carbon economy? So we are piloting this together with the banks to develop methodologies and also scenario analysis. And I think that's quite new, looking at not just historical data, but developing scenarios, which the insurance industry has, of course, got a lot of expertise in, to look at how do you actually take account of future climate change, not just historical data, in assessing the bank's own portfolios. So we'll be finishing that project next year, and then, of course, publishing any sort of guidelines or learnings and lessons that come out of that. I'm sure this is a journey of many years of learning, but we have to start somewhere, so that's what this project is doing. On the opportunity side for the Sustainable Development Goals, we are working on developing frameworks and indicators as the positive impact finance for financing the Sustainable Development Goals. So I mentioned that 5 to 7 trillion is the number put out there that is needed for this transition in the economy towards sustainable development. So this initiative is working again with the financial institutions themselves to develop the solutions, to look at what are the barriers to financing that some of the SMEs, for example, are facing, that they are providing the solutions for sustainable development, but may find it difficult to access financing currently with the current approach. So we're looking at definitions, frameworks, and transparency, and looking at how do you assess this. So, for example, in the Netherlands, I think more than 70 billion euros has now been pledged by some of the asset owners, some of the pension funds, to put that money towards the Sustainable Development Goals. But what does that mean? I mean, it's that they're now trying to figure out how to do that. How do they know if these if these allocations are actually contributing to Sustainable Development Goals? And so that's what this aims to do, to help with that transparency and be able to differentiate. So many of them have been struggling, especially in private equity and other asset classes, to find any way to put these billions, because it's not clear that money will actually contribute to sustainable development. So the pipeline of these, the businesses that are producing this, there's still a bit of a gap in that case between the money available and actually the opportunities available to put that money. So one of the asset owners actually said to us that some of the asset managers are coming to them with these products, but they're all the same old products, just with a new label. They want to go deeper than that and to actually have products that are actually contributing and have an impact. So as well as the frameworks and looking at how do you measure that and how to assess that, we also have a working group working with Société Générale, for example, on product development. So both looking at the existing products and how could they be assessed in terms of the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so having the financial institutions collaborate in a working group then is an opportunity for learning and for sharing knowledge, rather than each trying to figure it out individually. There's a lot to be gained by them doing that. And also research and development, so that they can build on some of the experience already had by each other. So far, Société Générale issued a positive impact product, which is really a way to say this product actually has positive environmental, social, and economic impacts. So that's just a start in that area, and many of our members are actually also looking at their financial products. How are they aligned with Sustainable Development Goals? Citi has come up with a little booklet which explains that, and also looking at how strategically are they positioned going forwards to be ready for the opportunities that are coming with aligning the economy with sustainable development. So the positive impact finance work we're doing on that was already launched in the MENA region in Morocco earlier this year, and we're having a launch in Sub-Saharan Africa in Johannesburg in a few weeks, because banks in South Africa are very interested to be part of that transition. So we're doing regional roundtables this year, and we'll be doing more in 2019, so you're welcome to join this one in a few weeks. It's probably a bit soon, but also in 2019 and next year we'll have our global roundtable in Paris in December. So, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I think we leave the questions till the end so we can progress further with our other panelists. As we all know, the banking sector is considered to be a leading sector when it comes to undertaking sustainability and corporate social responsibility. The track record of all banks, without exclusion, is considered to be a very impressive track record in terms of the contribution that banks make towards the economical, social, and environmental development across the kingdom. In Jordan, there are different stakeholders that contribute to this impressive track record. Association of Banks in Jordan has been very instrumental in pushing the sustainability agenda across banks, as well as building partnerships with the different stakeholders in order to ensure that banks are really doing what they are supposed to be doing, and sometimes more at the sustainability front. Our next panelist, who is well known to all of you, is Dr. Adli Qandah, who will share with us the role that the association has been playing. I must, Dr. Adli, for the sake of record, introduce you officially for those who do not know you. Dr. Adli is the Director General of Association of Banks in Jordan since July 2006, with over 25 years of experience in banking and economics. Prior to joining the ABJ, he held several positions, including Economic Advisor for the Minister of Labor, Manager of National Training and Employment Project, Economic Expert at Qatar Central Bank. He also worked as at the privatization unit at the Prime Minister of Jordan, worked at research department at the Central Bank of Jordan, and the list goes on. He has also his economic or academic kind of contributions. He also worked as a part-time professor at the University of Jordan, the Middle East University, at Zaytuna University, the Hashemite University, the University of Qatar, and Jordan Institute of Diplomacy, and Mu'ta University. He has more than 60 published studies in different areas of economics, trade, finance, and banking. Against that backdrop, and I can continue for another kind of 2 minutes, but against that backdrop, I mean, we start your presentation, Doctor.
Thank you very
Please,
much.
go ahead.
Thank you very much. I will speak in Arabic, if you allow me, and the presentation will be in English. And I will focus mainly on the ABJ's sustainability journey. كيف احنا بلشنا نحكي من تقريبا 10 سنوات عن موضوع corporate social responsibility لحين ما وصلنا لليوم نحكي عن sustainability report. راح نمشي بالسلايدات شوي شوي، واحنا شوي متأخرين في البرنامج تاع اليوم. The pillars of the ABG sustainability strategy, it seems that I'm going to speak in Arabic and English. CSR forms and other CSR-related activities, publications, and the partnerships with international organizations. Our main pillars are the following. We are very much keen to increase the awareness and commitment of the banking sector towards sustainability and towards corporate social responsibility. We believe that banks and the banking sector should be committed towards the sustainable development and sustainable financing. And we believe that the country as a whole should have a role in implementing the social development or sustainable development goals of the United Nations. And we have here today the Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment. He will talk about the strategy, the green financing or green economy strategy of his ministry. And we have as well some people from the Ministry of Planning that will talk about SDGs and the role of Jordan in this regard. So we should raise awareness and commitment towards these goals and improving sustainability practices within the banking sector. We should no more talk about only social responsibility in a narrow concept, as a narrow concept, but to talk about a wide concept of sustainability and sustainable financing and sustainable development. And the third pillar is to create a sectors-wide strategy for sustainable development. We are trying to work with our members to do this job and to increase transparency and reporting of non-financial performances. In the following slides, we will review the main measures undertaken by the association to promote sustainability within the Jordanian banking sector. We are championing an annual forum, actually, on CSR and sustainability for the past decade, almost. The main objectives of the forums were to raise awareness, as I mentioned, and commitment of the banking sector, and to shed light on the role of international banks and financial institutions in the field of CSR and sustainability. The aim is to learn from these experiences and to enhance the role of banks in sustainable financing as well. In Jordan, the banking sector occupies about 94% of the financial sector in Jordan. So the role that the banks should play is a major role, and this is why we are focusing on this issue. These are the main forums that we have conducted until today. We have conducted 5 forums. The first one was in 2010. We introduced the concept of CSR to the banking sector. And the second forum was in 2011. We highlighted the importance of CSR. And in 2012, we introduced for the first time, and I know that our members were ahead of us, some of our members, like the Arab Bank. In 2012, we introduced for the first time the sustainability reports. We talked about this report in a comprehensive way, and we have noticed after that some of the members started producing this and publishing this report for their institutions. In 2015, the discussion was focused on the developments of CSR and reporting according to the international standards, mainly according to the GRI standards. And today's forum is focusing on the issue of the theme of this forum is to move towards, to move from CSR towards sustainable development. And we hope that banks will, learn from this forum and from the international experiences, and then be work together and be on the same stage. At the same time, we were publishing some booklets and publications to focus on, to raise awareness and to focus on these issues. We have published booklets on CSR and the experiences of our banks in this regard. And that was in 2011. And we have published another one in 2012. And in collaboration with Schema, we have published a comprehensive study on corporate responsibility, disclosure, and practices in the banking sector of Jordan. That was in 2013. And last year, we have published, in collaboration with Schema and our members, our first sustainability report for the banking sector in Jordan. And we know that this report is not comprehensive, is not according to the international standards, and this is why today we are organizing this forum in order to raise the standards of our publications and practices. I don't want to go through the slides, in details, because, in the slides, I will leave them and you can read them later. You can find the different types of questions that we asked our members regarding the survey that we have conducted with Schema in 2016. We have asked our members many questions to see how much they comply with the international standards and principles in regard with the sustainability reports. The main findings of the report is the following. We have noticed that about 77% of our members' sustainability goals, strategies, comply with the international standards, and we have found that 50% of our members have sustainability goals that comply with the international standards. One of the main findings that we have noticed in our report is that there is a slight movement towards using sustainability as an innovative tool for creating new products and attracting new segments of society. And sustainability is still remain as a predominantly philanthropic practice instead of an integrated value-added practice. So 58% of our members deal with CSR and sustainability as a philanthropic issue. And only 27% or 27% consider sustainability as an innovative tool, and 15% only consider it as a strategic strategy. So there is a need for, from our members and from ourselves to transform the practice of our banks from philanthropic towards sustainability. The main recommendations of our report is to increase awareness and commitment of the financial sector towards sustainability, and to improve sustainability practices within the banks, and to create a sector-wide strategy for sustainable development, and to increase transparency and reporting of non-financial performance. And the last slide is about the partnership with international organizations. We are very proud to announce that we, as an association, have joined UNEP-FI as a supporting institution. That was in 16th of October last year. And by becoming a member or a supporting institution, we are the second banking association in the region to join this very important global initiative. And by joining the UNEP-FI as a supporting institution, the EBJ will work together with the Secretariat of the UNEP-FI to promote the concept of sustainable financing to the banking sector in Jordan, and to contribute to the adoption and implementation of sustainability practices among the industry. I will say a few words in Arabic now. الفكرة الرئيسية من عقد هذا الملتقى إنه إحنا نصير مع كافة الأعضاء نشتغل على نفس المستوى وعلى نفس المرحلة من التقدم. اللي عم نلاحظه إحنا خلال الفترة السابقة، خلال 10 سنوات الماضية، لما بلشنا نحكي عن CSR حتى قبل 10 سنوات كان لسه الموضوع جديد، ولما انتقلنا للحديث على موضوع التنمية المستدامة وعلى sustainability reports، وجدنا إنه مش كل البنوك واصلين لنفس المرحلة. وبنعرف إنه في بنوك، عندنا بنوك دولية لها فروع في الأردن وبتشتغل على ستاندردز عالية، وعندنا حتى بنوك وطنية وصلت لمرحلة يكون تشتغل وفقا للمعايير الدولية. اللي احنا عم نحاول نوصله كجمعية إنه يصير في عندنا awareness بنفس المستوى عند كل الأعضاء، بحيث إنه يصير عندنا practicing من قبل البنوك الأعضاء لموضوع sustainability بنفس المستوى. ما يكون عندنا بنك لسه بيشتغل على موضوع sustainability as a concept of CSR وفيلانثروبيك وجمعيات خيرية ودعم وسبورت على مستوى ضيق. احنا الهدف من هذا الملتقى كمان انه ننقل الوعي الى مستوى انه نبطل نشتغل فقط بموضوع حتى CSR اذا بدنا نضل نستخدم هذا المصطلح او السستينابيلتي بنسبة من الارباح اللي بتستخدمها البنوك لدعم الجمعيات ودعم النشاطات هون دعم مؤسسات هون ودعم جهات معينة أو رياضة أو صحة وإلى آخره. إحنا بدنا نشتغل على أو نبلش ندخل المفهوم بحيث نشتغل على البورتفوليو كامل تاع المصرف البنك. نحكي عن كامل موجودات البنك، يعني نحكي عن 48 مليار تاعت البنوك، ما نحكي فقط عن 10 مليون تاعت CSR، لأنه البنوك هي مكون أساسي في الاقتصاد وتشكل 94% من القطاع المصرفي، فبالتالي العبء علينا كبير. ومن هون لابد من أنه نبلش نحكي عن كامل محفظة البنك، لأنه أي قرض، أي نشاط، أي خدمة بيقدمها البنك بيأثر في الاقتصاد، وبالتالي بدنا يكون التأثير إيجابي، اللي يكون في عنا positive impact على الاقتصاد، وبالتالي نساهم مع الدول الأخرى في العالم بتحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة اللي أعلنتها الأمم المتحدة ومؤتمر باريس للبيئة، وبالتالي نساهم كقطاع بشكل كبير، لأنه علينا عبء كبير، لأنه التمويل من عنا. فأي مصنع، أي شركة جديدة بتطلع لازم تكون تأخذ بعين الاعتبار كل المتغيرات اللي بتحكي عنها التنمية المستدامة، من بيئة، من اقتصاد، من مجتمع، من حتى حاكمية مؤسسية، حتى حقوق إنسان، حتى حقوق موظفين، حتى كل المتغيرات. وبالتالي بدنا نطلع من مفهوم الضيق تاع CSR إلى المفهوم الشامل اللي هو التنمية المستدامة، وبالتالي التمويل المستدام sustainable financing. وهذا الدور اللي احنا بنأمل فيه، وزي ما ذكر معالي المحافظ الصبح وزي ما ذكر المتحدثين الآخرين أيضا، ونأمل أنه بنهاية هذا الملتقى، مش اليوم يعني، بس بنهايته نطلع بمجموعة من التوصيات تكون جايد لاينز للبنوك زي غيرنا من القطاعات المصرفية في المنطقة وفي العالم، تكون تعطي خطوط عريضة للبنوك كيف نشتغل لتحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة اللي أعلنتها الأمم المتحدة، وبالتالي يكون لنا دور بهذا الموضوع. وبالتالي بدنا نكون نشتغل كمان على الأدوات والبرودكتس اللي بتطلعها البنوك، يعني ما نضلنا نحكي عن برودكتس تقليدية، بدنا نشوف جرين بوندز بالأردن، بدنا نشوف منتجات جديدة تحكي عن قطاعات الاقتصاد الأخضر وتمويل الاقتصاد الأخضر، وبالتالي نخرج من بوتقة المنتجات التقليدية لنصل إلى إيجاد منتجات جديدة بتوفر تمويل لقطاعات السولار سيستم والقطاعات الجرين ايكونومي والقطاعات الطاقة المتجددة، وبالتالي يكون لنا دور فعال بهذا الموضوع. ما بدي أطيل أكثر من هيك. الهدف إن شاء الله رح نوصله مع بعض. من دونكم، من دون الأعضاء، ما رح نستطيع نعمل أي شيء. إحنا كثير سعيدين أن يكون معنا ناس من يونيب FI ومن GRI، وسعيدين كثير كمان أنه في عنا بنوك أعضاء عنا قاطعين شوط ومرحلة متقدمة. بدنا نكون كلنا على نفس المستوى، وبالتالي إذا تمكنا من أن نخرج ب general principles أو guidelines للقطاع المصرفي تكون تساعد البنوك منهم نوصل لمرحلة موحدة، بيكون عملنا شيء جيد. شكرا لحسن استماعكم ويعطيكم العافية.
شكرا دكتور. Thank you very much. Applying a sustainability work frame and a sustainability approach within an organization which includes sustainability reporting is not an easy process. It is a collective, cohesive approach that needs to be implemented right from the top all the way to the bottom. If we are to arrive at the point that Dr. Adli mentioned, the advanced form of sustainability, that collective, cohesive approach within each organization need to be set and established in a systematic manner. بدي أحكي شوية يمكن بالعربي. I'm going to talk in Arabic a little bit. يعني الجهد تبع موضوع تحقيق استدامة أو جهد استدامة منظم داخل البنوك بناء على المعايير العالمية مش تجربة سهلة. يعني أنا بنعطي يمكن تجربتنا إحنا في البنك العربي اللي بدأت في موضوع الاستدامة في العام 2009-2010 استغرقت وقت وجهد كبير، وكان فيها درجة التزام عالية من التوب مانجمنت، وإت واز كاسكيدد داون، يعني مشت بالتسلسل الهرمي الإداري لأدنى المستويات. لو وصلنا لمرحلة كان في عنا فيها استراتيجية استدامة، آلية ريبورتينج وإعداد تقارير استدامة حسب المعايير العالمية، وهذا تطلب جهد شمولي من كل الأطراف اللي بتشكل المؤسسة أو اللي بتعمل من خلالها المؤسسة. Against that backdrop, I would like to introduce our next panelist, who comes from the consultancy background, and who can help us actually and help all of us today to know more how can banks work to establish a sustainability framework and a sustainability reporting mechanism. I would like to introduce John Joseph Ryan, JJ Ryan, who is the manager at Sustainability Excellence with over 10 years of regional sustainability experience. Living and working in Jordan, Oman, and the UAE, he has worked on over 100 sustainability reporting projects using the Global Reporting Initiative GRI frameworks. He has worked with 10 banks in the region on their sustainability efforts, and 8 out of the 12 companies in Jordan to have sustainability reporting. Without any further delay, I introduce John to the podium and everybody.
Thank you very much, Tarek. Good morning, everyone. Many people talking about, or we've seen what's happening at the international level, we've seen what's happening at the national level. We've had some great presentations this morning showing us how it's important that the sector and us as organizations start to implement sustainability and sustainable development principles into our organizations. But how do we do that? I'm just going to take 10 to 15 minutes, and we're going to look at one way that you can get started on sustainability, and that's through sustainability reporting and using this international framework that's been mentioned a few times called the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative. So I'm going to cover 3 items in this quick presentation. One is sustainability management. What is it and why is it important for us as banks? How can we benefit from it? We'll talk about sustainability reporting, who's doing it, and how do you do it? And we'll look at the GRI very briefly. And then we'll look at sustainability data users, just to kind of close the loop and say, once you've produced your sustainability report, who's using that data and how is it being used, so that we really know the value of why reporting is so important for all of our organizations. Just very briefly, Sustainability Excellence, we're a regional advisory firm, as Tarek mentioned. We're based in Jordan, set up in Jordan 10 years ago. And our track record includes working with the first organization in the region, Aramex, to produce a GRI report, the first government entity, the Environment Agency in Abu Dhabi, and the first NGO, the Jordan River Foundation, to ever use the GRI guidelines 10 years ago. And if you look at the 450 or so sustainability reports that are now produced in the region, around half of them are past or present clients of ours. So we're very closely related to the GRI. We're their data partner for the region. We helped launch their new standards in the region just a few months ago, and we're facilitating the translation of those standards into Arabic to be launched in February next year. So to the first point, sustainability management. So it's been mentioned quite a few times already, but sustainability really for us as organizations is looking at how can we integrate this economic idea, social and environmental performance into one strategy, into our core business. Really looking at saying, not just focusing on the economic, not just focusing on the society, but the integration of those 3 ideas so that we can create greater value for our businesses and for the community and the country. The key thing to take away from today is that sustainability isn't just a nice thing to do. It shouldn't just be a side piece, as Dr. mentioned a moment ago. if we really integrate it into our business, it will make us outperform the rest of the market. And you don't just have to take our word for it. You can take any international indices, and we're just taking the MSCI, which is a well-respected rating agency in the world. They take the top companies in the world, in the emerging markets, not just the world, but here in the emerging markets, they take the top companies and track their performance. And that's the yellow line. But then if you look at the blue line that's doing better, that is just the companies that are leading in sustainability. So they are outperforming the rest of the group by up to 50% over 10 years. That's not small, that's significant outperformance of the market. So there's a really strong business case for why organizations would want to implement sustainability. So how are they achieving this? Well, just to touch upon some of the few benefits or reasons why sustainability is achieving these levels of growth and outperformance. First of all, risk management. It's been mentioned a few times. As banks, we don't want to be lending to an organization or to a project that may have faults on their environmental or social side. Because actually, if you look at some of the biggest corporate fines in history, they're for environmental, social, governance issues. So by us as banks applying sustainability principles to the way we do business, we're able to safeguard ourselves and ensure that we are not exposed to these risks that maybe previously were not being accounted for. Some of the other areas that can reduce costs. A very simple thing people can do is try and reduce their environmental consumption or electricity consumption, and that can lead to savings and obviously increased operational efficiency. Trust. Banks are built on trust. So ensuring we have ethical practices and that we're valuing our customers can be a really powerful tool and powerful initiative that can ensure that we are sustainable over the long term. And of course, opportunity. Sustainability can be a source of innovation that's been mentioned already many times already. Whether it's green financing or green bonds or looking at the social side and the underserved markets, there's many opportunities where if we're able to take the lead, we could maybe get greater benefit from that. So that's just some of the reasons why an organization would want to implement sustainability management. Now, implementing sustainability management may be a tough concept to start with, and maybe there's many steps. We have to do a strategy and a policy and put performance indicators in place, but a great way of getting started, as I mentioned before, is through sustainability reporting, and that's what we're going to focus on just for a minute or two now. And sustainability reporting using an international guideline called the GRI. So what is it? Well, hopefully many of you have already seen sustainability reports, and some of you are already producing those sustainability reports, but essentially it's similar to your annual economic reporting, which you do on an annual basis or quarterly or sometimes even on a monthly basis. But a sustainability report broadens that to say, let's include our social performance, let's also include our environmental performance, because together that shows the full impact of our organization. Who's doing it? Well, if you're to look at the GRI, who's adopting the GRI, if you're to take the top 250 companies in the world, over 75% of them use the GRI to do their sustainability or non-financial reporting and disclosure. Here in the region, there's around 100 companies that regularly report annually on their sustainability performance, and hopefully that will continue to increase. It took a little bit of a dip last year, primarily due to the oil and gas sector, for various reasons, economic reasons primarily. But if we're to look at the financial sector, there's around 17 companies in the region now that regularly, annually report using the GRI guidelines. And that's continuing to grow, and we expect that to really start accelerating as understanding and adoption of sustainability continues to grow as well. Here in Jordan, looking just at the GRI, there's 5 companies regularly reporting annually using the GRI guidelines. That's not to say that other companies are not producing sustainability information. Some of you produce CSR reports, governance reports, health and safety, or even environmental reports. And many of you actually include some of your non-financial disclosure in your annual reports. But just looking at the GRI as the recognized standard for sustainability reporting, there's about 5. And we're hoping that that's going to really dramatically rise as we see this gathering pace and importance for reporting. So the GRI. What is it? Essentially, it started 20 years ago. It's an international stakeholder-based organization, an NGO, so supported by members and governments and other entities. And they have been the custodians of the most widely used sustainability reporting standards in the world. So there's thousands and thousands of companies now using this standard. And they've produced various standards over the years. And in 2016, they've produced various guidelines over the years, which have been voluntary. And in 2016, they launched what's called the GRI standards, really trying to put in place a set of guidelines and standards that everyone can adopt so that we're all producing sustainability reports and sustainability information that's comparable, that's timely, that's really useful for our stakeholders. You can access the GRI standards for free. You don't have to pay for them. You can just go to their website, globalreporting.org/standards, and download them. And what you'll find is that there's three main components to the standards. The first is GRI 101, and I'm not going to get too much into the technical details here, just to give you a flavor. But there's three parts. GRI 101, which tells you how to use the standards. GRI 102 and 3, which are general disclosures that every bank and organization around the world should start reporting on. And then there's topic-specific standards. So looking at how do you report on GHG emissions? How do you report on training and development? How do you report on diversity and inclusion or anti-corruption? So there's a range of 30 to 40 standards which you can use to produce reporting that's based on this international framework. Now, the best way to really understand how you apply the GRI is actually just to look at a report. And I'll show just a sample of the Arab Bank Sustainability Report, which is a GRI standards-based sustainability report. And I'll show you four main elements from that report, which will give you a flavor for how a sustainability report looks and feels. So the first part of a sustainability report is really to understand what are the issues that are important for us as a bank. Nobody can tell us you have to report on these things. We have to go through a process of understanding what are the environmental, social, governance, and economic issues that are important to us. So banks will often go through what's called a materiality exercise and try and identify and prioritize the economic, social, environmental, and governance issues that are relevant to them. So here you can see our bank's materiality metrics, which is in their report, and you can see which issues they are prioritizing and working on. Many organizations will then take that further and say, how do we organize this in a comprehensive way that's easy to communicate to the general public and to our stakeholders? And so they'll create what's known as a sustainability framework. So really it's just a way of organizing those 30 to 40 issues around central areas like responsible financing, community cooperation, employee empowerment, and so on. The second main part of a report is really saying, well, let's take each of those issues. Let's take, for example, employee training and development. And we're able to use the GRI guidelines to then disclose what is our strategy and what is our approach to this issue. So in any report, you'll see those issues, and you'll see how they are approaching that topic and what kind of initiatives they're putting in place to ensure that things like their employee and training and development are really at the highest standards. The third main element of a report is reporting on your performance. So that's really looking at the numbers, the quantitative information. So you'll see GRI 404 is specifically related to employee development and training. So you can pick that up, and it tells you what you need to report on when it comes to that specific issue. So you'll then see in every report, if they find employee training is important to them, you'll see the same kind of data, and you can then compare that data across companies, across the region and within the country. And the final part or element of a sustainability report is the disclosure index. It's really just a reference, right? There's many issues we might be reporting on, and the GRI index shows you what you have reported and where it is reported within that document. So that's just a really small flavor of a sustainability report. I don't want to go into too much more detail because you can all take a look at any report that's out there. The only thing I did want to kind of end on is just to say that sustainability reporting can often be a very intensive internal exercise. You know, we go through this process. It can take quite a bit of time, but it can be very valuable. And once we produce that report, we have to bear in mind that it's not just for us, but it's for our stakeholders. Many of our stakeholders will be asking for different environmental, social, and governance data, whether it's governments and regulators asking us for information, whether it's associations, whether it's the stock exchange. The Amman Stock Exchange now is on the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, so they are going to be recommending a set of indicators that all listed issuers should start reporting on. So you will start to get a range of stakeholders asking for different sustainability information, and the sustainability report is really the best way for you to start communicating that information to all of those different stakeholders. Now, just to give you two quick samples of people that are using the data from sustainability reports. The first one is ArabSustainability.com, which is a regional platform which has taken the data from every sustainability report in the region and put it into a public platform for you all to use. And what you can see here is a quick demonstration of how you can go onto the site and you can take any two banks in the region and you can compare how they're performing. So you can take their employee training and development, you can take their female employment, you can take their GHG emissions, and you can see how they're performing. And this is a really powerful tool for you to be able to use as an organization to be able to benchmark yourself and understand where your gaps and opportunities lie to be able to improve moving forward. And the final point to make, and something that was mentioned a few times already, is that many international investors are starting to look at the region and say, we would like to start investing in organizations here. And they will turn to international rating agencies, many of which you may have heard from, that will be assessing our organizations here in the region on environmental, social, and governance performance. And ESG Invest is one of our sister companies that does that here in the region, but they follow what is known as an international best practice for rating of sustainability of businesses. So all that's to say is the more information you put out, the higher up the ratings and the rankings you go for these international investors, and the more attractive your bank and Jordan becomes for international investment. So it comes back to that very first point. Sustainability equals outperformance. The more we start integrating it into our business, the more we start sustainability reporting, the more we can benefit financially, but also ensure we are benefiting socially and environmentally. GRI is the most widely used standard, and we hope that more and more organizations will start to adopt it moving forward. But always remember to cater for your stakeholder and data user needs. So as you start to get more requests for data, try and consider how you can integrate that into your sustainability reporting while using those international standards that are available. So thank you very much for having me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, JJ. Very useful. I would like to open the floor for questions. If anybody has any question or want to make any remark to any of our panelists. If no questions, perhaps I can do some questioning if possible. Are we good for time, Dr. Adli? Yeah, we're a bit lunch time late, huh? We can have 5 minutes. Yeah, we'll, please.
Thank you for the information. We really appreciate it. I have a question for you. Matter of fact, I represent the Amman Stock Exchange, and you mentioned that. And thank you. And we're about to sign with you guys an MOU, an agreement, hopefully soon. Now, with your knowledge, your experience, I would like to ask a direct question. What we should do as Amman Stock Exchange to really implement such an idea? You know, you have the culture, you have the Amman Stock Exchange, we have about 235 companies. The market cap is about 24 billion US dollars. There is a lot of responsibilities on our shoulders as the management of the exchange. How you can just guide us and brief us, you know, I don't want to take much time of your time, what we should do as Amman Stock Exchange to really spare the time get straight to the objective and sustainability. What can we do? If you please give us an idea. Thank you.
Sure, and we can talk a little bit more after that as well, but I think for us it's to start simple, I think, because I think a lot of organizations look at sustainability management and reporting as a big jump, and really we have to kind of put some steps in place in between. So as a stock exchange, I think following the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative and the World Federation of Exchange sustainability indicators, and trying to encourage all issuers to start reporting on those indicators is the best possible place to start. And maybe not all 30 plus indicators, maybe even just 15 to start with. Because I think once organizations start reporting, they obviously have to start measuring, reporting, and managing those issues. So it's often a great mechanism or a great lever to be able to get an organization started, to say, here's 15 indicators for sustainability and sustainable development. If you can start measuring that, disclosing that, and managing it moving forward, then we can continue to expand the initiative over time.
Another angle that can be looked at is starting voluntarily. I mean, requesting companies to voluntarily report on certain standards, so that there is a trial period for perhaps a year or a couple of years before it becomes mandatory and everybody takes it as a priority. That could also be something to be considered. We have a question back there.
As we mentioned, Mr. Lee, that there's benefits from the sustainability reports to the investors, to the public, and other firms. What gives these reports credibility? Is there any auditing for these reports or not? Thank you.
I think, JJ, you can answer
Sure.
that on the assurance side.
Yeah. So I guess the first place to start here is obviously sustainability reporting is not as mature as something like economic financial reporting, which obviously mandates things like auditing. But many organizations, once they have started to produce their sustainability reports, they will engage with auditors, and the big audit firms will all be able to provide sustainability based auditing. So they're able to provide that kind of service where they can come and check your report, check how you gather the data and information to ensure that it's accurate. But ultimately, right now, I guess sustainability reporting relies on stakeholder-based credibility. You know, an organization just starting to put that information out there, you're going to want to make sure that it's 100% accurate, because all of your stakeholders are going to be using that information. And if it's inaccurate, then people will very quickly realize and speak to the fact that it's inaccurate. So there's a certain amount of stakeholder pressure, but more mature organizations will implement some sort of third-party auditing process. Yeah.
Thank you, JJ. Yeah, please, Rawan.
My question is for JJ. You mentioned that cost, that sustainability, and applying and implementing a strategy for sustainability will decrease the cost on an institution, and probably the impression from all companies or financial institutions that in order for us to be sustainable and to implement this strategy, it may cost a little bit more. So what they think of is recycling paper or doing, these initiatives for energy saving and so on will cost. So can you just elaborate more, and probably more concentration on the training and so on? It just, gives the impression that there will be more cost on the institution. So just a summary of how can we decrease the cost, because it's very important, I think, as banks and the financial institutions for us.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I mean, certain environmental initiatives may have a certain upfront cost. I guess the key thing to look at from a sustainability perspective is the life cycle. So when we're investing in something like an energy efficiency program or a training program, it's to say, what are the benefits over the full term of this investment, like you would any other economic investment. So maybe we're investing in a solar panel and it costs a lot upfront, but maybe the payoff is within 5 years or 10 years and our electricity bills go down dramatically. So in all cases, yeah, you have to try and take that full life cycle analysis and to try and show that link to your management so that they can be able to approve those kind of investments. On the softer side, it's a little harder, I guess. You know, there's a lot of indirect benefits to sustainability, like employee retention, right? The more we're communicating our interaction with the society and the environment, hopefully the more we attract and retain talent because they see that we care about these things as organizations. So those are a little harder to quantify. But you know, there's new tools coming out, whether it's the Natural Capital or Social Value International. There's new tools coming out that can allow us to try and measure the return on those investments, the social return on investment, for example, which can help us to justify the investment.
Thank you. Any further questions? Please, Osama.
It's actually the question from Dr. Adli. So we heard that your vision is to put all the banks on the same level on sustainability reporting, and then we see the stock exchange are doing things. So are they gonna be any future cooperation between you and doing things? Because one of the hardest things for any bank to start is, where should I start? What should I do? How do I get that training? Are you planning to do any trainings, any guidelines, anything to coordinate with the stock exchange so you can pick up the awareness among the banks?
Yes. Yes, we always do. I mean, training, and we conduct workshops for our members, and we always coordinate with other regulators and other financial institutions in Jordan, and this is why we invited Mr. Nader Azar, and the CEO of the stock exchange in Amman. And I think we will keep, coordinating, and we will hopefully come up with, because I think when they are talking about principles, and we are talking about principles, we are talking about same principles, international principles and international standards. So definitely there has to be some kind of coordination, high level actually of coordination between us and other financial institutions, and mainly the coordination has to be between the regulators themselves, between the central bank, from the exchange commission, and as well as the other financial and stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Adli. I think we need to wrap it here. Thank you very much for our esteemed panelists for the very insightful and useful information, which hopefully will trigger the momentum among all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
نبلش السيشن الثاني مباشرة.